guys, and welcome back to Beauty in the Bookcase. In today's video, we are going to be looking at some of Bad Bunny's songs and delving deeper into exactly what they mean. The first song we're going to talk about today is called Rolandito, spelled like this. I know, it's kind of weird. As we can see, he likes his acronyms. So Rolandito is a sort of an homage to an extent to a young boy called Rolandito who disappeared in Puerto Rico in 1999. So to an extent, the song does talk about sort of like Rolandito's disappearance. It's kind of from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know where they are. However, Bad Bunny really seems to use Rolandito's disappearance and the feelings he must have of not really knowing who he is as a way to explain how he himself is feeling within the music industry. So Rolandito actually sort of differs from a lot of Bad Bunny songs in that he usually seems very sure of himself, very sure of what he's doing and where he's going. However, in this song, we see a much more vulnerable Bad Bunny who is directionless and unsure of really where he's supposed to go or who he even is at this point. So the song starts out with Bad Bunny singing, Hola, ¿quién soy? No sé, se me olvidó. So he's asking himself, much like, as I said, much like Rolandito might be asking himself if he's still alive, you know, who am I? He doesn't really seem to be able to differentiate anymore between Benito and Bad Bunny. So the song then takes us into almost like a journey inside of Bad Bunny's mind to see exactly what he's been struggling with and everything he had to do to find himself again, which clearly doesn't seem like it was a very easy journey. So the song kind of starts off talking about the sort of trust issues that Bad Bunny has always seemed to have, but have gotten worse since he's been in the spotlight. He really seems unsure when he sings, Porque confiar siempre me ha salido caro, porque confiar siempre ha sido un disparo en el corazón, y ahora veo que papi siempre tuvo razón, que las buenas muchos y en las malas pocos son, pero esos son lo que son. What he's saying in this section is that he doesn't know who wants to be in his life and who wants to be his friends as Benito and who just wants Bad Bunny. And this really seems to be a common sort of sentiment in a lot of music. A lot of artists sort of share that same perspective that, you know, people want something from them and it's very hard to make connections and make friendships once you're famous because you don't know who they actually want, like what their intentions are. So he kind of starts reflecting on how, especially now that he's become famous, there's been all these people suddenly wanting to be in his life, but they haven't really been true, and it makes him think of, you know, how his father said, like, well, when things are good, people are gonna be there for you and they're gonna want to be your friend and they're gonna be there to party and to go out and to, you know, benefit from the positives of your life. But when things, you know, when the going gets tough, people disappear and kind of leave him. They wanted to be able to be like, oh, I know Bad Bunny, I'm friends with Bad Bunny, but they didn't really care about, you know, anything that was really going on past surface level. So from there, he goes on to sort of explain how he is just desperately trying to find himself again and reconnect to who he really is, instead of, you know, the persona that he's had to create and put on. He's kind of unsure if his heart is even in the music anymore, and if he really is passionate about this, and why isn't he feeling fulfilled, and why is he still kind of feeling like there's something missing. When he's sort of talking about how quisiera encontrarme y volver a ser yo, pero parece que de mí no queda nada. He's kind of talking about how like fame kind of requires you to develop a persona and stay committed to that character almost permanently if you want to keep your fame, but then that makes it so hard to distinguish between who you really are and who you're just presenting to the world. He's kind of feeling that the more he commits to being Bad Bunny and to giving people what they want and what they expect of Bad Bunny, he's sort of losing himself and his own identity. This leads him to really just kind of question everything. You know, he has a line that says, no sé si hablo con Dios o con el espaldar, no sé si mi ángel de la guarda me quiera guardar. And he's sort of talking about how he's struggling to find his faith and to turn to the positives in his life, because, you know, he's starting to question, like, well, was I always destined to, like, if I became famous, sort of lose myself, or is it just that now I'm in an environment where this is all expected of me and it's sort of taken the joy out of making music? So he's really just saying, like, he doesn't have anyone to talk to. He doesn't feel like he can trust the people in his life. He's really just saying that he's in a very vulnerable position, but he doesn't really have anywhere to turn to. And this sort of comes to a head when he says, lo tanto que amo ya no me hace feliz, será que no lo amo o que no soy así. So he's sort of talking about how the pressure that came with fame to just, you know, put out a record and touring and all these things has taken the fun out of making music. And instead of being like, oh, well, you know, I'm just under a lot of stress, I'm under a lot of pressure, and I'm not making music for the same reasons as I was when I started, he sort of thinks that there's something almost wrong with him, because he feels that he should be a lot more appreciative of where he's at, but he can't really feel that. You know, he kind of doesn't enjoy what he's doing anymore, because he's not doing it out of, you know, he's not doing it on his own terms. It's been, you know, said before that a lot of artists sort of struggle to put out the music that they actually want to put out because they experience a lot of pressure from their record labels to adhere to their brand, because he doesn't feel like he's in control of it anymore. However, at the end, he does sort of reveal that he's basically found himself again. You know, he says, hola, ¿quién soy? Siempre he sido yo. So he's finally realizing that, you know, he's always going to be himself, and that's the only way that he's going to be able to survive the music industry and to survive the world that he now inhabits, you know. So almost as a counter to the message he's putting out in the song, in Rolandito, Caro sort of serves to establish where he is now and where he wants to go. So in Caro, the whole song is about him coming to realize his worth and realizing that he doesn't need the world to approve of him, and he doesn't need all this like glitz and glam to validate him. He realizes that his worth is within him, and that the only way he can move forward and be happy within like the world of fame is by just being who he is unapologetically. So a lot of what Caro deals with is about the scrutiny that Bad Bunny faces in the media, especially because there are a lot of like stereotypes and expectations in Latin America. You know, people are a lot more comfortable with the traditional gender roles. So to see somebody do the things that Bad Bunny does, you know, with wearing, you know, skirts or dressing up as a woman to advocate for women and like women's rights and for transgender rights, and you know, painting his nails like he does in the music video for this song. A lot of people, of course, then look at him funny because he's doing something different that they don't expect and that they don't exactly like want, because it's a message that goes against everything that's culturally expected. And you know, it's almost people going like, well, who does this guy think he is to be dressing this way and acting this way and doing these things? And his rebuttal throughout the entire song is, you know, I know my worth, and without money or with it, I know that I'm expensive. I know who I am. And he kind of fights against people questioning his identity, I guess, and his way of self-expression. You know, it could be interpreted as him kind of being almost greedy and kind of cocky and being like, oh, well, you know, I'm too good for you and blah, 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 and kind of looking down at people. But that's not really what the song is about. This song is actually him saying, you know, people look at me and a lot of people still see, you know, maybe who he used to be, you know, his humble beginnings, or they're expecting, you know, there's a very established idea of what the like trap and reggaeton singer is supposed to look like, and he breaks a lot of that. And you know, he's not trying to be like, oh, I'm just better than all y'all. You know, he's talking about how, like, you know, he couldn't afford things when he was younger and now he can, and he's not trying to be malicious about it. He's not trying to be like, I'm better than you and I can afford more things than you, so haha. He's acknowledging that privilege while still being like, but I worked hard for what I have. And I know that, you know, I deserve the things that I have, and I deserve to be in the place I'm at right now, so I'm not gonna let anybody take that away from me. And he's also saying, you know, I know that you expect certain things from me, or that you want to sort of downplay my success or downplay who I am, but he sort of realizes, you know, I don't need to make myself small for people. I don't need to make myself into something else just to keep other people happy. And he goes on to responding to people by saying, la regla yo la rompo y la reparo, which is kind of the crux of a lot of the song and a lot of what he's trying to say, which is there's all these stereotypes, there's all these expectations, but I'm just gonna take them all and I'm gonna flip them on their heads, and I'm gonna be who I am, and I'm gonna encourage younger people and, you know, my followers to be authentic to themselves. And if they want to do things that are considered traditionally feminine or traditionally masculine because they make them happy, I want them to be able to do that. I want to break these rules and fix them and encourage people to be a bit more open-minded and to be a lot more accepting. And in sort of the bridge of the song, he's asking, you know, he and like Ricky Martin, who features in that song, which was another figure that got a lot of judgment in the media when he came out, you know, they're both kind of saying like, well, why can't I be who I am as long as I'm not hurting anybody? I'm just trying to be happy. To say, look, these things make me happy. This is who I am. It's taken me a long time to realize that I'm not weird, and I'm not a freak for liking certain things that I like. And so long as I'm not hurting anyone, and so long as I'm putting out a positive message to encourage other people to be true to themselves and to be authentic, then, you know, what does it matter to you? Why is it so important? Why do you need to talk about it so much? And, you know, he also talks about like how a lot of people that criticize him, they don't really lead by example. You know, that's what he's trying to do. And then he's saying, you know, well, all these people who are talking about me, who are criticizing me, who are telling me this and that and the other and have a problem with everything I do, if you're going to criticize them, you need to lead by example, and you need to be providing the youth what you're asking for. So a lot of people will be like, well, the content or like the lyrics in Bad Bunny's music, it's too explicit, it's this, it's that message. But then it's like, well, I'm trying to set up a positive example about confidence and authenticity to my followers. What are you doing other than just sitting there and criticizing what I do? If you want things to be different, then you have to also be doing something, or else you can't be criticizing me, because at least I'm trying to put something out there. I'm trying to make a change and share a message. And at the end, you know, he said, feliz nunca me ha salido caro. Con dinero, sin dinero, mi flow es caro. And so, you know, he's saying, like, whether I had this wealth or not, whether I had fame or not, I think I would have come to accept who I am. I would have come to like who I am and to express myself freely, because it's what makes me happy, and happiness is priceless, and I'm not going to let you take that from me, essentially. And from there, from that message of, you know, I'm expensive, I know my worth, I'm going to do what makes me happy, and I'm going to use my platform for good, he continues then with the other half of his narrative, which is dedication to whatever you do and how you need to work hard to achieve your dreams. And the song Se Bichote received a lot of backlash because a lot of people took it at face value. They were kind of like, well, this is just a song glorifying, you know, dealing drugs. In another video I did, I sort of spoke a bit about this idea, this concept of being a bichote. So I will leave that video up in the card for you guys if you haven't seen it, so you know what I'm talking about. A lot of people took it at face value as like promoting, you know, oh, you should all be drug dealers. But that's not what he was trying to promote. You know, he was trying to say, hey, I just always wanted to be the best at what I did, and everyone should, you know, work towards that goal, towards being the best at what it is that they do. You know, he starts off the song saying how Mami quería que yo fuera un ingeniero, papi quería un pelotero, mi maestra de segundo me dijo que fuera bombero, nada, yo voy a hacer lo que yo quiero. He starts off the song talking about how everyone in his life seemed to have a plan for him, like an expectation of what they wanted to see him do without really asking him. And he sort of fights against this by being like, well, no, I'm just going to do whatever I want. But he doesn't just leave it at just like, oh, well, just do whatever the hell you want. He's saying, like, I always enjoyed just having a good time and sort of not taking anything too seriously. But I realized that if I wanted to make something of myself, then I couldn't just keep doing nothing and expect my dream to just happen. Instead, I have to put in the work. So yeah, he realized that to be el bichote, to be the best and at the top of the industry, he had to do a whole lot of work, and he had to hustle while also staying true to himself. But then he also acknowledges, you know, that he is one of the lucky ones. He knows that not everyone can just do what they want. Not everyone is going to achieve success, but he turns that into also just a criticism of how poorly education is valued back in Puerto Rico. You know, how he's like, well, a bunch of schools are closing, right? And you're complaining that young people don't want to do things the right way, or, you know, they're getting involved, they only want to be like reggaeton stars, or they only want to like, or, you know, they turn to selling drugs and stuff. But his point is, if you're closing down all these schools, what do you expect? A lot of kids, you know, are from a lower income, and they still need to pay their bills, and they still need to be able to provide for their families. And if they can't get an education because their school is closed, or if all these professional opportunities are constantly denied to them, how are they supposed to do anything else? You know, what do you expect out of your youth when you're turning your back on them? Of course, they're either going to turn to what's gonna give them a quick buck, or they're just gonna leave the country and go find their future somewhere else, because, you know, you're not providing them with opportunities for growth and development to be the best in their home country and in what they want to do. Now, there's a million other songs that I want to talk about, but this video is already getting pretty long, so I think I'm just going to do one last one for today, and it's the like heart emoji, old school heart emoji song. I think that song really ends up capturing what the philosophy of Bad Bunny is, you know? It's a song that captures the mental health struggles he's been going through, especially since becoming famous, while also explaining that the only reason why he is where he is because he was dedicated, you know, and he put in the work. And lastly, how by being authentic and by being true to himself, he stands out from the crowd. So Bad Bunny opens up this song as just, you know, with a message of gratitude towards his fans, you know, all the people who have been supporting him and loving him since he was just a bagger at the local supermarket, and since he was just this young random guy in his home creating music and uploading it to the internet. And he goes on to sort of talk about how he is really grateful for that support and for that reminder of people who have been there from the start, because they kind of help ground him, help him remember where he came from. You know, he goes on to have another message that kind of resembles the idea of Garo, which like can be seen very much as like a cocky message of, oh, I'm better than you. But instead what he's trying to say is, you know, the only reason why I am where I am and the only reason why people love me so much is because I am authentic, and it's that authenticity that has helped me to stand out amongst all the other people doing the same work, but while trying to imitate somebody else. And that's one of his biggest issues, is he feels that a lot of people are so consumed by the desire to be famous and to be successful that they, instead of being themselves, they sort of want to be somebody else. You know, he says like, yo no quiero ser un dios, yo no quiero ser un rey, si todos quieren ser yo quieren mi DNA. You know, he's kind of talking about like, you know, he doesn't want to be this idol. He doesn't want to be this like untouchable figure that everyone wants to imitate. Instead, he just, you know, he's like, I would be who I am whether I was famous or not. He realizes that he would have been Bad Bunny whether he had this level of fame or not. He realizes that, you know, he doesn't want people to idolize him and try to be him. He just wants people to realize, hey, the only reason why I'm here and the only reason why I've been so successful is because I've committed to myself, and I've committed to putting out music and messages about things that are important to me, whether people like it or not. However, he goes on to sort of talk about how he also has gotten tripped up though because of his fame. He's not as happy as he thought he would be. He confesses that, you know, he's not sleeping well, and he's just kind of sick of fame. He reflects on what's expected of him and all the things that people kind of demand from him, and how that's sort of taken away from his ability to have a normal life. And while he of course is glad to be where he is, a part of him wishes he could, you know, a part of him wishes he wasn't sort of tied to all these commitments all the time. You know, it's almost like he feels that, it's almost like he's tired of feeling like he has to always keep going because he owes this to his record label, he owes this to the fans, and he kind of almost resents that, while still, you know, still being appreciative and acknowledging that he's very lucky, but also kind of being like, yeah, sometimes I wish I could just be, you know, sometimes I wish I could just stop. However, he does end his song by expressing gratitude to his parents for being strict with him and, you know, not letting him get away with everything. He seems to recognize that if he hadn't had that discipline, if he hadn't had his parents just be like, no, you can't just do whatever you want all the time, then he wouldn't have had the discipline that he needed to get to where he needs to get to where he is, and he realizes that nothing that he's accomplished has been it's not been just him, essentially. He recognizes that a lot of people have had a ginormous influence on his success. So at the end of the day, Bad Bunny's message is loud and clear through his music. He is very vulnerable. You know, he's being open about how he struggles with fame and all of the demands that come from it, how he struggles with his own happiness, but how he's also come to realize that the only way for him to be happy is to be himself. And the more successful he gets, the only things that keep him driven and motivated are being able to spread a positive message and to sort of just influence young people to be themselves as fearlessly as possible. So at the end of the day, the philosophy of Bad Bunny is all about just being authentic, and how hard work and dedication are just the base of that. But a reminder that just because you're famous doesn't mean you're going to be happy, but knowing your worth and knowing who you are will. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments what your own interpretations are of some of these songs, or if you have any ideas for future videos. Make sure to subscribe and to hit that notification bell so you know every time I upload, every Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I will see you guys next time.